Warning: contains adult content including harsh language, violence, and sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 17.
A little over a half an hour later, Kodo was laying on his back, Mina laying her head on his bare chest. Kodo wiped a bit of sweat from his forehead and closed his eyes. Mina was breathing deeply, a small smile on her face. You. She couldn't even find the words to describe what she was feeling. Kodo chuckled, turning on his side to look at her, resting his head on his hand. Mina kept close to him, staring at him as if he was a god. "Let me try to describe what you're thinking," Kodo said happily, feeling lighter than air. "You feel fantastic. What better way to lose your virginity to someone as great as me? You feel warm, and yet you have chills run up your spine every time you look at me, because only I could be the one to make you feel this good. Am I close?" Mina giggled, giving him a gentle kiss. "You forgot one thing," she murmured. Kodo blinked. "And what's that?" "I think..." She paused for a moment and then continued in a soft voice. "I think I love you." Kodo's smile faded, and he remembered who he was. His head dropped to the pillow, closing his eyes. "I'm not sure if I'm the kind of person you should be falling in love with," he said dully. Mina frowned. "Are you rejecting me?" Kodo's eyes snapped open. "No!" he exclaimed. "No, Mina, We had sex, Mina. I'm not that kind of guy." "What kind of guy are you?" asked the voice. "I am the kind of guy," he said with force, "that will kiss, caress, and share romance with the girl he loves." Mina's lips parted. "So, you love me?" she whispered, her voice shaking with happiness. I've loved you long before tonight, Mina," Kodo admitted. He never wanted to believe it, but it was true. "I love you like I could never love another human being, and I want to share my life with you, but..." "But?" squeaked Mina with fear. "I'm afraid you'll find a reason to not love me anymore." She stared at his dismal face. She sighed, moving his hair out of his eyes. "Nonsense," she said softly. "I will love you no matter what." "I was afraid you'd say that," he thought sadly. Day 1 had begun. As Mina bustled around her room, Kodo sat in the living room, shirtless, but wearing his torn jeans. He was determined, for Mina's sake, to stop himself from going out to kill some unsuspecting family. He was confident. Even the voice in his head was keeping quiet. Mina came out of her room wearing a formal black dress. It was just about as long as the dress she had worn in Kodo's dream, only this one had quarter-cut sleeves. It was trimmed with lace, and a pretty silk ribbon was tied around her waist, finishing in a neat bow in the back. "Why do you look so dressed up?" Kodo asked, standing. Mina blinked, and then looked away quickly. "I took the day off from work," she said, her voice emotionless. "It's Saya's funeral." Kodo's eyes fell to the floor. "Oh," he said. "I would take you along, but it's friends and family only, and you never got the chance to meet her," said Mina. "But I did meet her," Kodo thought with remorse. "Well, remember to be strong," he told her, walking closer. "She's watching you to make sure you're well. Here." He took the only lily in the vase that was still alive. "From both of us. She might appreciate my gesture." Mina smiled and hugged him tightly, and he hugged back. "I love you," she whispered softly, and he fought back tears. "I love you, my angel." Mina pulled away from him so quickly she almost fell backwards. Kodo caught her just in time. "Angel?" Kodo blushed. "Corny," he growled, furious at himself for saying it. No, not at all. Mina smiled, and Koto was taken aback. Oh, Koto, I'm so happy around you. I don't know what I'd do if you weren't around anymore. She hugged him again. I'm proud to be your angel. Koto smiled, but he was still feeling sick with misery. You better not come home crying, got it? He demanded softly. Don't worry, said Mina, pulling away from him again and pulling on her shoes. I'll be strong, for both her and you. She kissed him lightly and left the apartment. Koto stood there, staring at the door for nearly 5 minutes. He took a deep, shuddering breath and sat on the floor, turning on the television to watch something other than the news. The hours went by slowly, Koto trying to distract himself by watching stupid cartoons and stroking Haku, who was asleep in his lap. After a while, he got up to make some lunch, eating it as slowly as he could possibly manage. It was only 2 in the afternoon. Usually, when Mina was at work, she'd come home around 5. He had no idea how long the funeral would last. He turned off the television and sat against the wall. Haku stretched and rubbed against his legs. Koto smiled at him. Most men left home alone, bored without their girlfriends, would probably resort to masturbation, he said, laughing gently. He reached out to scratch Haku behind the ears. I am not one of those men. So what should I do? I don't have any books or games. God, a book would be nice. So go get one, said the voice that had been lying dormant all day until now. Koto furrowed his brow. If I go out, he said out loud, I might be tempted. I will not return to the element of temptation. I have more willpower than that. 4 o'clock in the evening, Koto was munching on a raw potato. It took him a while to realize this, but when he did, he spluttered and glared at the potato. He stood slowly and placed the potato on a cutting board. He grabbed a knife, meaning to start dicing it to cook, but suddenly found himself stabbing it violently. The potato was now all over the kitchen. Koto panted and stared at the knife. What am I doing? He asked himself. That wasn't right. He began furiously cleaning the potato remains, dumping them into the trash. He stood, staring at the kitchen, and then tracked down Mina's cleaning supplies and began cleaning like a maniac. Clean. If I clean, I won't think about killing. If I clean, I won't kill. If I clean, I kill. No, I won't kill. He continued to mutter to himself as he cleaned the entire apartment. 6:30, the entire place was spotless. He had even cleaned his old rusty knife and replaced it back in the crevice in the bathroom. Now he was sitting in a corner, trembling. He didn't understand what was happening to him. He felt cold and clammy, and he could see his veins in the back of his hands. He massaged his temples, feeling an intense headache approaching. Haku mewed at him, staring with his gigantic eyes. Koto looked at him, his eyes red from exhaustion and stress. You know I can be good, right? He asked Haku. I mean, I took you home with me after killing your family. I can be good. That was a good thing to do, right? I can be good. By 7 o'clock, Koto was hunched over the toilet bowl, vomiting violently. His eyes were streaming with tears from the stinging in his throat that was caused by the acids from within his stomach. He heard the door open, but was too weak to stand, and felt another surge of vomit come up. Koto? Mina called. She was silent for a moment, and then, hearing the sounds from the bathroom, rushed in to aid him. Koto, are you all right? Koto couldn't speak. He was panting and shivering, and his head was killing him. Mina wiped his mouth with some toilet paper and then helped him to stand. She forced him to lay down in the living room, feeling his head with the back of her wrist. Jesus, she whispered, I need to get your fever down. She hurried to the kitchen, drenching a washcloth with cold water and placing it on his forehead. Koto could barely open his eyes as he tried to look at her. Mina, he managed to say, his vision swimming in and out of focus. Mina was trembling with fright. She ran to the bathroom and searched through her cabinet, finally pulling out a bottle of aspirin. She filled a glass with water and returned to Koto's side, forcing him to sit up. "Drink, Koto," she said in a shaky voice. She tipped the glass to his lips. Some of the water fell out of the sides of his mouth, but Mina was sure there was enough inside to get him to swallow the medicine. She forced 2 pills into his mouth, tilting his chin up to get him to swallow, which he did without much difficulty. She made him drink a little more water before laying him down again, replacing the cloth that had fallen on his chest. She panted slightly, but eventually calmed herself. Koto opened his eyes a little more. "You're too good to me," he muttered weakly. Mina smiled sadly, stroking his hair. "There's no such thing as too good," she replied. She turned on the television, hoping to catch the evening news as it circled around to review the day's events and tragedies. When it finally got to more news on the Sakura murderer, Koto listened with difficulty. "For the first time in 3 years," said the anchor, "there has been no reports of death today." Mina gasped slightly. "The police are stunned by the lack of frightened calls reporting screams or strange noises, and are wondering if the murderer will choose to strike tonight instead. However, they are also afraid that a murder may have occurred, only it was too silent to alert neighbors or passers-by. We are very suspicious of the lack of movement of this killer," said an officer, "but we do not think for a second that he's actually stopped." Koto heard the television shut off, and he could almost feel relief radiating from Mina. "Good," he thought to himself. "I want to make her happy." The second day was even worse than the first. Mina was a little hesitant to leave him alone again, even though his fever had broken. He managed to convince her to go to work, however. He was afraid of what she might see. In the morning and evening, he could pass his behavior off as some sort of flu. He wasn't so sure of what would happen today. He couldn't watch television today. His head was hurting so badly. He had to close the curtains to try and relieve himself from the sunlight. He found his appetite was lost as well. He sat in a corner, hugging his knees to his chest and staring into nothingness. As the hours passed, he stood and paced the room for a bit, and then sat back in his corner, rocking back and forth very slightly. He thought he saw shadows moving past him, but he knew he was imagining it. He switched positions of sitting and laying on the floor so often, he looked like he was performing some strange interpretive dance. Koto was hyperventilating by 3:30. He was shivering again, his eyes darting around the room in a paranoid fashion. He had managed to build a large pyramid in the center of the living room with cups and bowls. Haku was sniffing it with curiosity. "The bowl can't balance on the cup," he said, speaking very quickly under his breath. "It won't stay. The bowl won't stay. The bowl would ruin everything. It can't sit on a cup because it will ruin everything." Haku pawed at a cup, and the pyramid tumbled to the floor. Haku hissed and darted into Mina's room. Koto laughed a strangely high-pitched laugh. "The cup has betrayed me after all. They will all betray me. I need knives. I can only trust knives. Knives love me." He dug his nails into his scalp, rocking more violently. "I told you this would happen," said the gleeful voice inside his head. Koto had stopped rocking. He gripped the wall, finding he couldn't breathe. He clutched his chest and fell to the floor, clawing at the carpet in panic. "Imagine what Mina would say if she saw this. Come on, you're making yourself sick. Just go kill someone. Maybe just one little family." "No!" he screamed, finding his breath at last. "You cannot control me. I control me. I control you. I don't want to hurt anyone anymore." "But I have not been trying to control you," said the voice softly. "I am you, Koto. I only tell you the truth. You cannot fight this longing to kill, this craving. You need it to keep your mind from destroying itself." "I can fight it!" Koto cried, covering his ears and curling into a fetal position. "I am a good person! I am good! I don't want to hurt anyone!" He sobbed, twitching on the floor. Where's Mommy? And Daddy? And little Yumi? Where did they go? Where did they go?" "You killed them," answered the voice, sounding amused. "You killed them, and you liked it."